Questions after, please.
Donna Marsh O'Connor, September 11th, Families for Peaceful Tomorrows.
Okay. Next, we're going to hear from Imam Abdul Baki of the Islamic Leadership Council of New York.
I greet you in Islamic greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. I would like to say first and foremost that there is today a dark cloud over our heads, but there is indeed a dark cloud over America. And that dark cloud is the cloud of intolerance as well as racism, which is being perpetuated by a small minority who are trying to perpetuate hatred against the Islamic community. On 9/11, Muslims lost their lives in the Twin Towers. It is said 200 to 300 people lost their lives who were Muslims from Africa, from Asia, from Latin America. All of this talk about the masjid at Ground Zero is ludicrous because of the fact that Muslims have been praying in New York City for many, many years. We live here. We are part and parcel of the fabric of New York City. There's a masjid on Warren Street. There's a masjid on West Broadway. And there was even a masjid in Tower 2 of the World Trade Center that people used to go there and worship in transit from New Jersey to New York. So therefore, those individuals who are perpetuating all of this ignorant hate are trying to stir up within America sentiments which will do harm to the credibility of our nation. America is better than that. We are a nation found upon pluralism. We have always been a nation in which everyone has looked towards America for freedom, justice, and equality. And the Muslim community expects nothing less than that. We will continue to be a part of this environment, and we encourage our fellow New Yorkers to be understanding that that group, which is called the Stop the Islamization of America, shouldn't be condemned because of its racism. It is sowing the seeds of hate and discord. It is confusing the issue. What is the issue in America? The issue is jobs, homelessness, revitalizing the economic community, putting America back to work, helping our society be foremost in terms of economic growth and development in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Imam. Next, we're going to hear from Donna Lieberman of the New York Civil Liberties Union.
Thank you. I'm Donna Lieberman, Executive Director of the New York Civil Liberties Union, and I'm proud to stand here today with New York Neighbors for American Values to support the principles of religious freedom, diversity, and equality that hang in the balance in the controversy over the Park 51 Islamic Cultural Center. We are committed to resisting the efforts to push Park 51 out of downtown, and we reject the refrain of freedom of religion, but not in my backyard. Let there be no mistake. As residents of Lower Manhattan, the NYCLU office is a stone's throw from Ground Zero, and one of our chapter board members, John Perry, lost his life on September 11th. We share the pain, the hurt, and yes, even the lingering fear caused by the September 11th attacks. But we unequivocally reject the political posturing, the fear-mongering, and the crude stereotyping that seek to demonize the project, whose goal is to build bridges among the faiths and to banish a community cultural and recreation center for people of all faiths, simply because it contains a place for Muslims to worship. Religious freedom is a core American value. For hundreds of years, religious pluralism and tolerance have strengthened our nation. We stand here today to boldly oppose religious discrimination and to resist those who seek to exchange our most precious values for political advantage. We applaud those government officials, including Mayor Bloomberg, who have stood up for religious liberty and defended the right of private citizens to build a Muslim community center in Lower Manhattan. Opponents of the center now tell us that they support religious freedom, but they say it's insensitive to build the center 2 blocks from ground zero. They're certainly entitled to their opinion. But when that opinion is rooted in misinformation and cultural stereotypes that fail to distinguish law-abiding Muslims from the terrorists who committed the 9/11 atrocities in the name of Islam, we must speak out. This type of group blame fuels prejudice and has already blocked other mosque projects that are nowhere near ground zero. And it cannot be allowed to drive public policy or to drive away a religious group. Adhering to our Constitution is not optional. We can't abandon our values to protect the sensitivities of Newt Gingrich or, for that matter, Harry Reid. The New York Civil Liberties Union and the ACLU have defended the right of all religious denominations, from major faiths to marginalized religions, to establish places of worship and to pray or not pray as they choose. Preventing Muslims or any group from freely practicing their faith is unconstitutional and goes against the very core of American freedom. Those who oppose Park 51 have every right to speak their minds, but in the end, discrimination is a losing proposition. If we betray our ideals, we'll hand a victory to those who seek to undermine our nation. And to those who believe, as I do, that ground zero is hallowed ground, I say, let us honor the memories of those who died, not by abandoning our values, but by standing up for them. And for those who are uncomfortable with it, we say, let's do that even if it hurts. Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Donna Scopper of the Judson Memorial Church and the New Sanctuary Movement.
Let us pray. Almighty God, you whom some call Jesus and others call Christ, you whom some call Allah, others Yahweh, Ruach, Spirit, Energy, Force, you for whom many are estranged and no longer dare your name because so much that is mean and unworthy has been done in it. Draw near now and teach us the meaning of truly hallowed ground. Amen. What is hallowed ground? Surely hallowed ground is a place where someone has died and blood has been shed and sorrow and tragedy lurk. Hallowed ground is also a place where life goes on and where people transcend the forces of violence and difficulty and come together as cultures, as centers, as forces of freedom. To truly hallow what has happened among us as a great nation and a great people, we need to go forward in love, mutual respect, with the Constitution at our side. The idea that we would hallow ground by losing religious liberties of any kind, shape, or form is to desecrate, to hallow ground. I call your attention to the great words of a great president spoken at Gettysburg, November 19, 1863. You know the speech. He said, in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate nor consecrate. We cannot really hallow ground. It is rather for us here to go to the great task remaining before us, that we highly resolve that the dead do not die in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people will not perish from this earth. This is what is at stake in this tremendously important conversation about religious liberty. We hallow ground by remaining a people who will not let go of religious liberty for me, for you, or any faith. Thank you.
Now we will hear from Rabbi Arthur Waskow of the Shalom Center.
Shalom, salam, peace. People ask me, why is it that I, the Shalom Center, and hundreds of rabbis and other Jewish leaders who have come together with us in a public statement supporting Park 51 Cordoba House in Lower Manhattan, why? Well, I could, of course, quote the Torah. Love your neighbor as yourself. Don't do to your neighbors what you would find hateful if they did it to you. V'ahavta l're'echa kamocha. Or I could quote, and we did quote, the very first president of the United States writing a letter to a synagogue in Rhode Island saying to bigotry, no sanction. To persecution, no assistance. But for me, the deepest teaching came when I was 7 years old from my grandmother, standing in a line at the Kosher Butcher Shop in Baltimore and overhearing two other women on the line talking with contempt about African Americans, the Schwarzes, they said in Yiddish. And she interrupted them. She said, "You must not talk like that. That is the way they talked about us in Europe. And this is America, and you must not talk like that." And we must not act like that either. It is not only that Cordoba House has a constitutional right to create a cultural center in Lower Manhattan. It is that it is right, it is wise for them to do that, because by doing that they lift a beacon to New York City, to America, to the world, a beacon of the best, the deepest of Islam, the Islam that seeks peace, that practices dialogue, the Islam that their beacon shows is not in its great overwhelming majority a religion of hatred and violence, but a hatred of dialogue and peacemaking and open invitation. They appeal to Cordoba, which in Jewish tradition is the place where one of our greatest teachers, Rambam Maimonides, studied together with Christians, together with Muslims and Jews together in Cordoba, in Andalusia, in the golden age, we call it, of Jewish history. That appeal, that beacon, is what all of us need today, and we affirm it. We affirm it in the name of the One. We affirm it in the name of Shalom, Salam, peace.
And now we will hear from Faiza Ali of the Council on American Islamic Relations.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Faiza Ali, and I'm from the New York chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, the nation's largest Muslim civil rights advocacy group. Americans have the right to freely practice their faith without intimidation and discrimination, including the constitutional right to build houses of worship anywhere in the country. It is this founding principle that has sparked a nationwide conversation over a proposed Muslim YMCA a few blocks from Ground Zero, revealing a disturbing wave of anti-Muslim sentiment. Just last night, we learned of a New York City cab driver that was stabbed by a passenger who allegedly asked if he was Muslim. Opponents to Park 51 continue to smear all things Muslim and justify their calls to move their project away from the 9/11 site by erroneously linking the criminals responsible for the attacks to the organizers and its supporters. This insinuation of collective guilt, the notion that American Muslims should be treated as second-class citizens in our own home, is not only false, it is un-American and should be rejected. Muslims aren't newcomers to Lower Manhattan. In fact, the community has been worshiping at a mosque a few blocks from Ground Zero since the early 1970s. We will not let extremists and opportunists exploit the tragedy of 9/11 to create divisions amongst New Yorkers and distort the true purpose around the center. Park 51 will be a space for dialogue and cultural exchange amongst members of all faiths and people of all backgrounds. It will also be a facility that meets the needs of the growing New York City Muslim community, including a space for a gym, a swimming pool, an auditorium, a prayer room, and even a memorial for the victims of 9/11. Amidst the vile attacks, there have in fact been voices of reason that have seen past the anti-Muslim smears that have clouded this issue. In his address to the community at an iftar last night, Mayor Bloomberg said, "Let me declare that we in New York are Jews and Christians and Muslims, and we always have been. And above all that, we are Americans with the equal right to pray where we choose. There is nowhere in the 5 boroughs that is off limits to any religion." We thank Mayor Bloomberg for his unequivocal support for the rights of Muslim New Yorkers and for taking a principled stand that reaffirms religious liberty for all, not just some. Anything less of that would be a mockery of our Constitution. Thank you.
On behalf of Common Cause, I would like to say that the hundreds of thousands of Americans that we represent around the country understand that a diverse and vibrant America living by its constitutional principles is among our strongest weapons against the fear and hatred that feed terrorism. We reject efforts to inject misinformation, fear, and stereotyping into our politics. And to the politicians who seek to make this election season about fear and divisiveness, we join with the Imam and we say, talk about the real problems facing our society and our country. We have fiscal challenges, we have social challenges, we have not yet recovered from the Great Recession. What are you going to do to help the people of America? That's what you should be talking about, not where a cultural center is going to be located in downtown New York. Shame on you. And now we'll take questions. And would you please identify yourself before your question? This is something which we see all the time at Common Cause, and those of us who work on good government issues and in politics, a isolated statement taken out of context, misconstrued, twisted, and made to stand for something other than what the speaker intended. And we ask you of the press to be more critical, more skeptical, and look at the entire context. How many times do we have to go through a press frenzy around a misstatement? We can tick off the number of individuals in this administration and other administrations who have been tarred with isolated statements that don't represent their life's work. And certainly it appears that the Imam is a victim of exactly that. Who are you? The coalition actually was formed very quickly because we felt that this controversy couldn't really continue on. And so when it picked up speed and seemed not to be dying of the misinformation and its own weight, we felt that it was necessary for New Yorkers to step forward and clarify. As the frenzy mounted and more misinformation was put out, we felt we couldn't just ignore it. We had to move forward. We have some specific plans. We will stay together as a group. We are very broad and diverse. We are gathering members every single day, organizationally and individually. I have no idea what the top number on this coalition will be because the response has been overwhelming. What we are planning to do, we have a website, which is newyorkneighbors.org, nyneighbors.org. We are planning a candlelight vigil on September 10th. We will be joining in with all of the extraordinary memorials and services which take place on September 11th. It's not our place to replace these extraordinary services and memorials which have been going on in some cases for 9 years. And we will also be joining in on a peace walk which is happening on September 12th. There will be a letter writing campaign, I believe, and we will also remain as a coalition to be a voice for American values and reason in this frenzy. Yes, ma'am. Who are you? Would 9/11 survivor families raise your hand?
Yes. There isn't a 9/11 family member I can think of who is not experiencing post 9/11 pain. And I would, I would tell you personally, I understand that pain. Every time one of you people decides, for whatever reason, to show the image of the towers falling, that produces post 9/11 pain. As an individual family member, I will tell you that there are times I wish you didn't have the right to free speech, because if you really cared about us, you wouldn't do that. And suddenly now, when the stakes are so high, we're worried about individual family members and their pain. I am not going to stand here and tell you that I am not sympathetic to that pain. I am. But I am also thinking about the consequences for us as Americans if we lose this debate. That will be a greater pain. We've already seen across the country anti-Muslim violence, rallies, protests against mosques. So this is not just a protest against the ground at ground zero. There's too much at stake. 3,000 family members died that day. 3,000, and that is just the round number. And one of the things that pains me is when you round out those numbers. My kid was only one. I left her there. And I will tell you that I am not leaving behind my country. People who speak up for American civil liberties now are really living what we were always told in this mythic way America meant. So I will say to you, please don't try to place 9/11 family members against one another. We're not. At least I'm not. Okay, and I'm thinking again about the number of Muslim people in this country who are raising children in the center of this debate. And I'm thinking, does my personal, twitch justify paining people who are trying to raise American children as Muslim people in this nation? Because I don't know what you're trying to get me to say, but from my point of view, that's sensitivity. Let's think about the generations we want to bring up. My kid died when she was 29. And I don't know if any of you have children, but when you lose a child, no matter what age, you always wonder if you were a good enough parent. And I spent an awful lot of my daughter's life trying to make her into the idealized, respectful version. Well, she loved danger. She loved the World Trade Center. She loved New York City, and she loved the New York Yankees. And I will tell you that one of the things she said to me shortly before she died, because she was pregnant, is thank you, Mom, for teaching us what everyday life is when it is the seed of racism, because she was hearing conversations that I had taught my kids to be sensitive to. So when I think of sensitivity, that's how I think about it. Who do we have to look out for? We're 3,000 families strong, unfortunately, and we take up a lot of different perspectives. But I would ask, in terms of sensitivity, you know darn well that any politician who wants to invoke 9/11 doesn't care about our sensitivities when he or she puts into their ads to be reelected the towers falling. So why is this something you're suddenly also worried about now? I'm so happy to hear the rabbis say, and the way my grandfather used to say about racists in our family, stop it. It's not okay here. Stop it.
One of the things which we will hold on. I'm sorry we can't, hold on one second. I just wanted to say one thing that we will be doing on the website is providing a list of resources for different topics for you, the press, of spokespeople that you can talk to. I'm sorry. No. Next question, please.
Separately. Later we can hook up
We
interviews
can
for
do
you.
that later
We're wanting it.
for specific interviews. But are there other general questions or questions for others part of the coalition? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.